Hey folks, just a quick update. If you're still interested in our Methodically Processing Fall Bundle, it's going to be available for a little bit longer. Just follow the link in the episode description and you can get the last 3 seasons of this show for just $7. Welcome to Methodically Processing Systems. It's a sunny morning. You're at the coffee shop, getting your morning caffeine jolt. A man and a woman chat away as they wait for their drinks. The man is wearing an expensive suit. The woman is in scrubs. You eavesdrop on their conversation. The man is rich. He won the lottery in his state a few years ago. $500 million. He brags that he is basically retired at the age of 27. The woman is a neurosurgeon. She says that she can't imagine being retired. She wouldn't know what to do with herself. She's good at her job and she helps people. So she's in no rush to retire anytime soon. Your name is called, and it's called again. You stop listening in to this conversation. After being quarantined for a year, you really can't help but get lost in people watching and eavesdropping on strangers' conversations. As you grab your coffee and leave the building to go to work, you fantasize about what it would be like to win the lottery. That'd be the life. Just have a boatload of money handed to you, and to be able to live out the rest of your life without worrying about a single penny. There's just one thing. The man who won the lottery is not as financially successful as he appears. He's richer than everyone in the coffee shop put together. But the neurosurgeon might actually be richer than he is. You might be richer than he is. Even the barista might be richer than he is. And the reason why is not what you'd expect. If you haven't had your coffee yet, now's the time. We're about to get a little trippy. Imagine for a minute that you're driving down a highway. But it's not an ordinary highway. It's a trippy highway. When you look ahead of you, the highway has more lanes than you can count. And when you look behind you, there's only one lane. Now, as you drive forward, something bizarre happens. There are still more lanes than you can count in front of you, but the part of the highway that you were just on is now behind you, and it is just one single lane. That lane seems to reflect the path that you drove through on this highway. So behind you, there is one lone path, the path that you came from. And ahead of you, there are an infinite number of paths. These are all the places you could go. If you pick your nose in the next moment, you'll end up on a different lane. If you wiggle your right pinky toe, you'll end up on a different lane. Whatever you do from moment to moment, eventually it all ends up in the one winding lone path in the rear view mirror. That's the path that you took to get to where you are now. You are like a zipper on this highway. You're zipping up all the possibilities into one actual reality behind you. But there's also something else happening. Every millimeter that you go forward, the lanes in front of you shift, they change. Some of these lanes disappear, some twist in different directions, some become easier to get to, and others suddenly become harder to get to. If you happen to be on your local TV station's traffic helicopter, the sight below you would look something like this. There'd be a dot in the middle of the road. Behind it would be one thread of highway stretching back to the time you were born. And in front of the dot would be an infinite number of lanes stretching in different directions like spaghetti. As the dot moves forward, it zips all of this spaghetti into one canonical lane behind it. This trippy highway is the universe of probability. The road behind you is the past, you are the dot in the present, and the mess of infinite lanes in front of you is the future. All the possibilities that are available to you based on all the lanes that you have taken so far. Every choice alters what's available ahead. Every choice alters what's possible in your future. To understand why the neurosurgeon is more successful than our lottery winner, we have to zoom out so that we can see both of their dots through these trippy highways. Once we zoom out, we have to turn back the clock so that they're back a few years before our lottery winner wins the lottery. At that moment in time, we take a look at the roads that are ahead of both of these dots. On the one hand, we have our lottery winner, who hasn't won the lottery yet. Before he had won the lottery, the paths that he had chosen up to that point left him lost and adrift. He worked random jobs here and there. He never took his education seriously. He never took small risks with big payoffs. Instead, he blundered his time. He took big risks with huge downsides. He wasn't an agent in his life. He just let things happen to him. At that same moment, on the other highway, our not yet neurosurgeon was busy working with a sense of purpose towards medical school. She didn't actually know what she wanted to do. She wasn't even fully sure that she wanted to become a doctor. But she decided to take the gamble at med school because she liked the concept of helping people. Worst case, she'd figure out something else. Best case, she could become the world's greatest doctor. She didn't just wait for things to happen to her. She concentrated her efforts through the next few years on being a good med student and ultimately a good neurosurgeon. By the time we saw her in the coffee shop, it's obvious that luck played in her favor. She became one of the best neurosurgeons on the planet. But she could just as easily, if he just selected some slightly different paths, turned into an average or an above average, maybe even a below average neurosurgeon. But as we continue to look down below at these two highways, at that particular moment in time, we see that our soon-to-be lottery winner decides to spend his last bit of change on a lottery ticket. And he goes home and forgets about it. He almost throws that lottery ticket away because he's not paying attention. Again, life just happens to him. Just before the lottery numbers are announced, we look at the infinite number of lanes in front of our winning man. And then we decide that infinity is a very hard thing to deal with. So instead, we take a random sample of the lanes in front of him. say 300 million of these possible paths. So we take a look at 300 million of these paths from our traffic helicopter, and we see that in one out of those 300 million paths, our lottery winner is worth somewhere around $500 million. But here's the thing. In the other 299,999,999 paths, his net worth is somewhere around zero. Really, it's negative, because he owes some money to some shady people. But for simplicity, we'll say he's worth zero. So why is he only worth 500 million in one path? Well, the odds of his winning the lottery are approximately 1 in 300 million. So if we look at 300 million paths in front of him, in just one of those will he have won the lottery. So then we take the 300 million paths, and we take his net worth in each path, and we add them all up. That's his expected value of net worth across these 300 million future paths. In one of these paths, he's worth $500 million. In most of the others, he's worth nothing. And maybe in a couple, he's worth a couple of thousand here and there. Which means the expected value of all his future paths that we've sampled is somewhere around 500 million and some change. So what about our neurosurgeon? What if we look at her at the same point in time when she has just started working as a neurosurgeon? The sample of 300 million paths in front of her are much more similar to each other. In most of them, she's a neurosurgeon with some degree of success and failure. In some paths, she's the world's greatest neurosurgeon. In others, she's average. In others, she has been bankrupted by malpractice lawsuits. All in all, because of her drive and effort and wisdom in not losing her money, she courts luck more often than she does not. Across all 300 million paths, her net worth averages somewhere around a competent $1 million. Again, in one or two, she's bankrupt. In a couple of others, she's worth hundreds of millions, but never as rich as our lottery winner in his lucky lane. But on average, she's worth $1 million across all these paths. So what's her expected value of net worth across these 300 million possible futures? Well, on average, she's worth $1 million times 300 million possible paths. That means across all these 300 million paths, she's worth $300 trillion. As we're hovering over these two people's highways in the moments just before the lottery results are announced, let's say I offer you the opportunity to live out your life as one of these people on one of their highways. Whose probability space would you rather roll the dice on again? But we don't live in this fantasy hypothetical world. We can't just pluck you from your probability space and throw you in another. You're stuck here with the probability space that you have. And while you can't change the past, you can alter the way you live your life so that instead of relying on just luck, that you take this luck and spread it out across your probability space. You don't just want to be successful in one path. You want to set yourself up so that you can be successful in as many possible paths as possible. Whatever it is that you consider success, you want to maximize it not just in one single possible path, but across as many of these infinite paths as possible. You want to live your life in a way such that if we were able to press the rewind button and then press play again and the dice rolled once again, that you wouldn't be disappointed with the new path that you would end up on. And this is why our neurosurgeon is more successful, financially at least, than our lottery winner. If we press rewind and we go back in time, we press play again and the dice roll again, in most of these futures, our lottery winner never won the lottery at all. But our neurosurgeon is doing pretty well in the vast majority of these possible futures. But before I wrap this up, I want you to think about one more thing. Next time you zip a jacket up, pay attention to what happens as you bring the zipper up your chest. When the zipper is at the bottom, the jacket behaves very differently than it does when the zipper is at the top. In that little everyday act sits a reflection of this trippy probability space. When the zipper is at the bottom and the jacket is open, you only have two paths in this case that are open and available, the left side and the right side. And these paths can bend ever which way, they can twist in opposite directions, they can fold in on themselves. But then, as you zip that jacket up, the bits of the jacket that have yet to be zipped start to feel stiffer and more structured. They can't bend and twist in as many directions. The same thing happens to the probability space as you travel forward in time. You make choices, you close doors, the amount of time available to you grows shorter and shorter. And to put it simply, you have fewer and fewer possibilities available to you. There are just some things that start to get more and more improbable. The lanes that twist away in the wildest directions get harder and harder to reach. They start to fold in towards a center. In other words, the older you get, the fewer possibilities are available to you. And yet, there's a wonderful secret about all this. As you get older and older, you only get a smaller and smaller fraction of the infinite possible lanes available to you. But here's the loophole, if you will. A little bit of magic in the realm of a set of possibilities. You see, a small fraction of a set of infinite things is still an infinite number of things. So why are you sitting around and moping? No matter how old you get, you still have an infinite number of possibilities available to you. And it's not too late to set things up so that no matter which one you end up in, you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, if you're interested in previous seasons of this show, you can go check out our fall bundle. We're extending the offer for a little while longer. You can get all the previous seasons of the show and some of the music from those previous seasons, all for just $7. So it's a great deal. Check it out in the episode description. And thank you so much for listening.